This week on Head to Head, Knights of the Old Republic movie confirmed.
You're listening to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Two fans, two generations, all things Star Wars. Begins now.
Hello, everybody. I'm Eric Vansel.
And I'm Daryl Sanders.
And we're your hosts for this podcast.
Hey, man. So I finally saw some trailers for 47 Meters Down 2. Now, you know, we're huge shark fans.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, last week we talked about the fact that I finished Meg Generations, and even though I really, you know, when they made the movie The Meg, it's like, you know, we've been waiting for this for 20 years. They finally do it. They make it a little bit more, you know, funny and
box office.
Yeah, and, you know, just kind of like a summer blockbuster type of thing, even though it's actually, the book is a very serious, you know, it's a serious, like kind of along the lines of Jaws.
Mm-hmm.
And it was unfortunate that they went in that direction, even though I will say that as a movie, I enjoyed it. Now, that said, I saw the original 47 Meters Down and just thought that that was an amazing movie. Like, I was really surprised about how good it was, like how much I enjoyed it. Because, you know, it's kind of like you said, you know, we love shark movies, right? And I was just sitting there thinking, like, you know, not too much playing at the theater. I'm going to go check this out. The shark movie looks kind of cool. It was, man. And it was riveting. And it was one of those movies. Did you see it?
47 Meters Down?
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
It did not have a happy ending.
Okay.
I won't like spoil it for
you
or anybody else out there. But I mean, you know, it was kind of grim. You know, you sort of left the theater like,
Was it like that other? It wasn't quite like how that other movie.
Open Water?
No. The one with the girl.
Oh, The Shallows?
The Shallows, yeah.
The Shallows is another.
Yeah, that was
another
awesome.
good one. Yeah, I mean, it was kinda, I guess, but even sadder and darker.
Okay.
You know, but it was good. I mean, if you haven't seen 47 Meters Down, like you, Daryl, or you, audience, I highly recommend it. I really do. And I remember it was funny when they announced that they were going to do a sequel. For a while, they were actually going to cheese out and call it 48 Meters Down.
Oh.
But now it's called, what, 47 Meters Down Uncaged?
Yeah.
So that's really cool. You know, the other thing is that getting a little bit into the Star Wars thing now. Still nothing, not any of our topics, but just something I thought I would mention. You know how we always loved the Jedi Council show, and we'll talk about those guys.
Right.
Well, Ken Napzok actually wrote his own Star Wars book, not a fictitious thing or anything like that. It's called Why We Love Star Wars: The Great Moments That Built a Galaxy Far, Far Away. And basically, it's really cool. It's basically talking about, you know, everybody who's been deeply influenced by it, and, you know, just like the whole, you know, appreciation of it. And it's just like a celebration of the whole Star Wars saga and what that entails. So, I mean, I think that if you guys haven't had a chance to pick it up or to look at it, it's going to be listed in our affiliate link down below in the show notes. Definitely buy it, check it out. Also do it to support our good friend Ken Napzok. Now, of course, we have never met him, but, you know, man, I mean, I've been following this guy since he first appeared on Jedi Council.
Feels like family.
He does. He feels like an old friend. He's a really cool, like, I love his whole style, the way that he, you know, a couple of times when Christian Harloff couldn't do it, he would host the show.
Yeah.
I thought he was really, really good. So I would say, you know what, he's one of the guys that, you know, all of us in the Star Wars community should really try to support. And honestly, the book looks really good. I'm looking forward to maybe picking it up and getting into it. But, you know, after you're done reading a good book, you want to go to the Cantina.
Yes, need that drink.
That's right. You know, relax. So, what do we got?
All right, man. So, up until this point, you know, we've had 8 movies. So, out of the 8 movies, well, actually, take that back. Technically, there's 10, but...
And 11 if you actually count the Clone Wars, like, animated thing as a movie.
Yes.
But we won't.
All right. Well, whatever. Out of all the Star Wars, well, I won't even go movies. I'll just say period. What are your top 5?
Period? Well, of course you're not.
That means the cartoons. It means all of it.
Books?
Sure. What is your top 5 favorite Force moments?
Ooh, top 5 favorite Force moments. Yeah, this is one of those times where, you know, sometimes when you send me these outlines, you know, I look them over and I'm like, okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of those times I probably should have actually like
thought about it.
Yeah, like thought about it. So I'm not thinking about it. But, you know, then again, I don't really want to kill the spontaneity, because one of the things that, you know, when people suggested that we do this as a podcast, it's the whole idea is that we're just getting together and talking about Star Wars. It's not like some show type of a thing, even though we do have a format and everything. But, you know, that's why I wanted to keep the spontaneity alive. So I guess not in any particular order.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be in a particular order.
You know, I'm definitely going to say, what's that guy's name? So when Vader chokes Admiral Mahdi, you know, I find your lack of faith disturbing. That was a cool Force moment, because I think that it actually really showed Vader's power. It was, if I'm not mistaken, that might have been our introduction to the Force.
Yeah. That was the first time you ever
seen it used.
Yeah.
So, which is interesting that it's the dark side power that we actually see first. You know, that's definitely one. I'd have to say, like, you know, another big Force moment is the end of Rogue One when Vader just goes nuts, like, you know, throwing people around and doing stuff. Trying to think of like some of the other ones, because I know there's so many of them, especially in the books.
Yeah,
there's just some ones that are, especially in the Legends.
Oh yeah, the Legends series. Yeah.
Legends has, like,
especially with Luke. Yeah,
with Luke, just has some epic stuff. But, you know, I'm probably gonna say like some of what Yoda does, you know, with the Emperor, like when he throws him across the room. You know, like first he like slams the Royal Guards. That was just so cool, because you know those guys are really powerful. You know, and they're always standing by the Emperor, and it actually symbolically shows vulnerability, because, you know, here's these two guards that are always by the Emperor, and, you know, it just shows like the Emperor's strength and power, and then you have Yoda that just like waves his hand, and these guys like fling against the wall and
knocks him out too. And they didn't even go that far, so he had to hit them pretty hard.
Yeah, I mean that. To
and
me,
they got helmets on. I mean,
that is just such an epic use of the Force to me. And then, of course, when he throws Palpatine across the room, they kind of happen in the same scene, so I'm counting that as one. You know, that's a good third one. Yeah, it's like I'm trying to like go across to some of the other ones. Man, you know, this is kind of tough, because there's just so many great uses of the Force. I remember there's a couple in Lords of the Sith, the book. There's a scene where, you know, Vader basically like he's in space and he's flying towards this like ship, it's Rebel or New Republic now, I guess, ship, and, you know, he basically pops out of the thing. He leaps out of the TIE fighter, like onto the TIE fighter while it's flying in space. Then he like leaps onto it, you know, clings to the ship, goes through, cleans house. There's another scene in there too, which is going to be my number 4, because I would love to see this in a movie, where there's these like spider-like creatures that attack Vader and the Emperor. And I mean, they just go like ridiculously crazy in like a Force frenzy, just mowing these things down. Yeah, it's so tough, because I mean, I know there's like some, you know, some other really good ones too. Yeah, what's gonna be my number 5? Trying to like scan all the movies and
really quick. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I'm actually gonna go for Yoda's little lightning destroying the library thing. Thought that was impressive. I almost was gonna talk about Luke's big, you know, Last Jedi moment and everything.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was cool. I have to admit that was cool. But I mean, for my top 5, my criteria are going to be how it emotionally grabs you, but also visually.
Gotcha.
So that was it. So I'm just going to go with that with top 5. I'm probably going to change some once you give yours, but
let's see. I definitely would have to go with the Rogue One Vader scene at the end.
Yeah, I think that would be on everybody's list.
Yeah, that was just massive.
That's still one of the most epic uses of the Force, light or dark, that we've seen on film.
And he was just so vicious, man.
He was. And I mean, that's just what it is. I mean, and it's actually the one time where you really
see him just unleash
why he's so feared.
Yeah. I'm going to have to say Yoda absorbing lightning from Dooku.
Yeah. I thought about that one too. That was
pretty
really
impressive.
I was either going to go with that one or the Palpatine one where he absorbed it from Palpatine.
Yeah, that
should actually even be more impressive.
Well, yeah. But anyway, just the absorption of Force lightning is just...
Well, and that's the first time we've ever seen that.
Mm-hmm.
And that also, just like the Rogue One thing, that's the first time where you actually see Yoda's power. Like, you're like, ooh, never seen anybody be able to absorb lightning like this before.
Absolutely.
Because he just absorbed it with his hand, too. You know, it's one thing that if you absorb it with your lightsaber.
Yeah, like Obi-Wan did.
Which that even I thought was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. I'm going to go with, for number 3, I got Luke with the whole doppelganger thing. That was pretty impressive, just because, you know, you're thinking like, all right, Luke's back, and then he's back, but he's not back.
Yeah, I mean,
and you're just
it was no doubt impressive. And again, you know, you have to really think about it in terms of what it would take
to pull that off.
Yeah, like how powerful you would have to be in the Force in order to pull something like that off. I mean, that's just sheer power right there.
Absolutely.
Nobody has been able to do something like that. I mean, you can almost liken like a lightweight version of it, how Vader was choking people through like holograms and stuff. You know, he's like on a ship somewhere. Somebody else is somewhere else.
Well, that's actually my number 4.
All right.
That was actually my number 4. Yep. Vader actually like choking people like on Star Destroyers from like a completely different ship. And you don't even know how far they are away from each other.
Yep.
It's just, you know, like, okay. That's impressive.
Exactly. It's just like, yeah, right. I mean, how cool do you have to be?
Yeah. And then...
it's when Luke lifted the rocks on Dagobah, right?
Eric. No, actually, but you're close.
Oh.
It was actually Yoda lifting the X-Wing.
Yeah, it did.
Because that's like the first
and that's
time,
another,
like,
that's
a kid, like, you know, and you're seeing like, okay, you see the Force being used, like Vader choking people or picking up a lightsaber or something like that.
Yeah, right.
But like to see someone that small and he was so old, and the fact that he just...
Yeah, he was picking up a ship.
He picked
it up out of water,
and then he made it fly across or glide across.
I have to admit, you know what? I almost want to change one of them to that, because that is, and I remember as a kid,
that was like a magical moment for me. As a kid, like, whoa.
Yeah, that I think is the first time where you really see what the Force can do.
And his line after that was even more epic. And he was like, "I don't believe it," and he's like, "And that is why." I mean, it was just like,
yeah.
Like that whole moment was just
it's mic drop.
Yeah, exactly. You just walk off after that.
Cane drop. You know, it's kind of like, yeah, exactly. What about you guys? What are your top 5 favorite Force moments? You know, let us know at Head to Head SW on Facebook or Twitter. You know, it's funny because a lot of times I've noticed that people have been going more towards Twitter, but we do actually have a fair amount of Facebook messages and comments that, you know, we respond to. So, you know, keep hitting us up on that and keep sending us and following us on Instagram. Speaking of which, you know, my friend Chris at work turned me onto this Instagram model named Erica Fett. Oh, she's incredible. I mean, dude, she's beautiful. She's one of those like Instagram models. So, I mean, you know, naturally it's like, you know, She's like really, really into the whole cosplay thing too. So, you can imagine she's got all these sexy pictures and stuff, but she's like a rabid Star Wars fan though.
Yeah, hence the last name.
Yes. And that's why it would actually be really cool. I'm hoping at some point, I'm going to try to like maybe reach out and see, maybe she would appear as like a guest
on the show.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Like if we could get her to like call in or something. And
in cosplay? Like the uniform and everything?
Yeah, I know, right? Like we would actually have to, then suddenly our video version's back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, we could do it though. We could do like a Google Hangouts or something like that, True. I mean, we could actually do the whole video thing. And in fact, that's what I really want to do too. I want to try to see if we can, just start doing that as our weekly show. How like for, like a month or two, we actually did do video versions of the show for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And that got to be, at least at our current rate, which is once again why we're, trying to get support for our podcast here. It just got to be a little bit problematic to keep up, especially with the production schedule. But, if we could do it to where it's a little bit more manageable, I would love to do the video version again. And I would even love to get to the point where we could start doing some live chats with some of the people that are listening. Actually do like a live stream of our podcast and then upload the audio, obviously, to the podcast site. So it's available on iTunes and everywhere else. Well, it'd be Apple Podcasts now, but yeah. So, if you get a chance to look up Erica Fett, put a link to her, in the show notes.
Definitely.
Maybe we could get her on here. All right. What do we got next?
All right, man. So if Rey was going to restart the Jedi Temple, how do you think she would do it?
Well, and I think that I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility that she is, going to restart it. I think it's actually a very good possibility that she's going to restart it. In other words, I don't really necessarily think it's an if. I think it's a when. I don't think she's necessarily going to do it toward the beginning of the Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, she's got other business.
And it might not even happen by the end. Like, it might be something that's implied, like, okay, I'm going to start this and... Almost kind of how like it was in Return of the Jedi, right? I don't think everybody knew that Luke was going to restart the Jedi Order.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think if she were going to do it, she would probably... I think that people would just naturally like drift toward her, like Broom Kid and all those, guys would just start to... I don't think she would necessarily go out and start looking for people. But I think she would just start... with the immediate vicinity, there's been rumors that Finn is Force sensitive and that we're going to see a little bit of that in Rise of Skywalker. So, she could start there and then it could just spread.
All right.
What would be hilarious is if she did a whole rule of two, but for the Jedi.
That'd be hilarious. Yeah, but I think if she did it, I think it would be cool at the very end of Rise of Skywalker to basically... kind of show like, okay, putting the pieces back, like, okay, the First Order is done with, the Emperor is finally vanquished, and so now it's like, okay, well, we don't know she knows that, okay, at some point the dark side is going to rise up and we got to meet it. We got to be prepared for that. Yeah,
but don't forget though, remember JJ did say that this is going to be the end of the Jedi and Sith.
Well, that's...
it just dawned on me, but it no matter what they do, whether they really truly end the Jedi and the Sith or whether they not, maybe it's ending in its current form. You know how it could be.
Right.
They could say anything, right? I do believe, though, that they're going to have to do a Return of the Jedi-esque ending to this. That it's got to be like kind of a happy, uplifting, positive thing that... gives you sort of like this whole, window of endless possibilities going forward, fill in the blank. Because if you think about it, that's kind of how it was with Return of the Jedi, right? The Emperor's been defeated. Everybody's celebrating.
You got the Nub Nub song.
With the Nub Nub song. And then, it's kind of like, okay, they're done, right? Now, your imagination went like, oh, I wonder what they're going to do next. And they're probably going to build this new republic and... it's kind of like it spawned an imagination of what these people were going to do. you know, but without necessarily leading you to a particular path.
Yeah, because you knew like Luke had to go do something.
Yeah, exactly. Like he just became a Jedi, basically. You figured he was going to start the Jedi Order up again. You figured that, you know, the rebels were going to now be the new Republic. You figured all this stuff was going to happen, and that's kind of what did happen when you started reading Timothy Zahn's original trilogy of what would have been 7, 8, and 9 that spawned the entire Legends novel series. You know, so I think that you have to do a similar thing with the Rise of Skywalker of give us something that ends the saga definitively, but also sparks the imagination of what could come next. So that way, you know, 10, 15 years down the line, if they decide, hey, you know, Daisy Ridley's like 35 now, let's see where Rey's at. You know, I mean, that's what I think they're going to have to do.
Okay.
Now, as far as if you go to the specific question of, okay, if she's actually going to restart the Jedi Temple, how's she going to do it?
Right.
Then I think what we just discussed would.
Yeah, I think she probably would. I think it's more of a thing of you got some people who probably realize that their kids are different or special.
Kind of like an X-Men kind of.
Yeah. And then I think there's also, she probably would go searching, you know.
It's like, you know what, kid, you're weird. Go to the Jedi Temple. I don't want to deal with you.
But see, that's the other thing, too, because it's like and I understand why you want to kill off the Jedi and Sith, because if you think about it, it's like, all right, much like, you know, kids in real life, you know, all right, you get a group of them together, somebody's not going to want to follow the rules. Somebody's not going to want to do, and that's going to be the one that's going to go to the dark side. And then now you got the whole Sith thing all over again. So it's like if you stop training people like that, it's almost kind of like just let people do what they're going to do. Then, you know, but then, you know, like I say, you got bad people in the world. You got
but then if you do have people with these powers and they're bad, it's almost like you would at least have to train some sort of a force, military or police force, or something to do that. So I mean, that's why to me, it's going to be interesting if they ever revisit the events after 9 in any kind of a film, book, you know, comic, whatever, TV series, because if you do definitively end these two factions that, let's face it, define Star Wars.
Right.
Well, how are they going to do it? You know, it's like, where are they going to go? You know, and people can always undo stuff too. You know, JJ can end the Jedi and the Sith, and then, you know, some other director can come along and go, guess what? Now this guy started it up again. And then kind of like you said, oh, well, you know, there's this one guy that, you know, kind of like the Soul Sith thing, so he decided to go be that, you know. I mean, I don't know. What about you guys? What do you think? How do you think Rey is going to Ray instead of JJ? How do you think she's going to restart the temple if in fact JJ is misdirecting us in saying that the Jedi and the Sith are going to end? You know, let us know at head-to-head-SW on Facebook or Twitter. All right, it's time for our next segment.
Yes, sir.
All right,
and it is Duel of the Fates. This week, I have the question: ground assault versus space battle. Which are you more excited to see in episode 9, and which is your favorite?
In both cases, it's going to be ground assault.
Okay.
Mostly because, I mean, when George Lucas first introduced the whole aerial space battle in A New Hope, it was a new thing. It was something that we hadn't really seen before. And I mean, then he goes and on Return of the Jedi, he takes it up a notch to where you have perhaps one of the best dogfight type scenes of any movie. And then, of course, we have all the World War II movies. You know, we have like Top Gun. You know, we have a bunch of stuff. And to be honest, I'm just kind of over the whole aerial dogfighting thing, especially in Star Wars. You know, I mean, one of the things that we have seen a lot less of is ground assaults. The Battle of Hoth is still one of my favorite battle scenes in Star Wars because it's unique, it's different. You know, they tried to recapture it a little bit with The Last Jedi, kinda, but it wasn't the same thing. It had a similar vibe. AT-ATs on the ground with a white surface, you know. But I mean, that was pretty cool. And then, of course, you know, the whole Rogue One thing was just completely epic. It was kind of like the Hoth battle on steroids. Now, of course, if you're saying, what am I most excited to see in episode 9? I would like to see a combination of like what we saw in Rogue One.
But it both.
Yeah, but see, the thing that I thought was really interesting about what they did in Rogue One, they gave us something we never saw. An in-atmosphere space battle. Well, so it's not a space battle. It's like a, you know, like an aerial battle, but in the atmosphere. It wasn't in space. Well, actually, there was a little bit of a.
I'm about to say, actually, it was 3 layers because you actually
there really was a space battle.
Yeah,
but I'm just saying, in terms of that, we never seen it before.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool because I think Rogue One really was the quintessential definition of Star Wars.
Yeah,
because it gave you, it was just, that's all it was like throughout the whole thing.
It was literally like movie. Your Apocalypse Now or any kind of a, I mean, it wasn't that dark maybe, but I mean, it was, you know, yeah, it was like a war movie. It was kind of like those war movies that your dad used to watch, you know, on Channel 50 on Saturday afternoons or something. You know, of course, people around the world are like, Channel what? But, you know, in our local area, we had a UHF station when I was a kid. And they basically showed old war movies on Saturday afternoons.
But yeah, I think for me, I'm in a perfect world, I would love to see the Rogue One thing kind of return where you have
that'd be
both.
Cool. I could live with that.
But if I had to pick between the two, I'm still going space battle.
Well, I mean, I guess from a story perspective, it would make the most sense.
Well, it's not even so much that. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I think ground battles are cool. I mean, I love. Like I said, the Battle of Scarif was like the best one to me. Yeah. The Endor was cool because, you know, you kind of have like the natives of that and they kind of had to find their way to beat technology in a way. Yeah,
but if I was going to put something like that, I'd much rather have the Battle of Kashyyyk than the Battle of Endor.
Well, yeah, I mean, Kashyyyk was cool.
Well, actually, if you think about it, the prequels actually had quite a few ground battles.
Oh, yeah, they had a gang up.
And really, you know, now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, I mean,
yeah,
you know, the Battle of Geonosis was pretty epic. You know, and then like every battle they had in Revenge of the Sith was like, it was mayhem. You had like space battles and ground battles everywhere.
Yeah.
That's actually what I wouldn't mind seeing.
Yeah, just kind of just having one big, you know.
And I think you have to. Well, I think we're going to get a ground battle because we definitely see all of our characters on that one planet looking at the ruins of the Death Star. So I think you're going to get some sort of a ground battle.
Yeah, but I have fallen in love with JJ's cinematography with aerial stuff, and I think that's why, because like the stuff that he did on
yeah, it's true. The Force Awakens, like Force Awakens, kind of that ending battle. See, now
not even at the ending one, the one that they went to Maz when they went to go.
Oh yeah.
That was, I mean, just
well, no, that was another in-atmosphere battle though.
Yeah.
So see, that's what I'm saying. I would rather have. See, that's why. You said space battle.
Okay. I should have said aerial battle.
Yeah.
Okay. I got you.
Because if it's an in-atmosphere battle, I'm not tired of that. You know, I mean, the space battle thing I just think has been done to death because it's done the best in Star Wars, but we've seen it in a million other movies too. All because they want to be like Star Wars. You know, and I'm not saying that just because you see something a million times doesn't mean it isn't cool and that it shouldn't be done, because obviously
it works.
It works. You know, you're talking about a galaxy-wide thing. It stands to reason that you're going to see battles in space. I mean, I get that. From a story perspective, you kind of have to see that. But, you know, I'm just saying that if you're going to give us, you know, don't give us like the single space battle as the only epic thing. Gotcha. I think that's what I'm saying.
I got you.
All right, well, what about you guys? You want to see ground assault? Do you want to see space battle? Are you going to split the difference and say in atmosphere aerial battle? You know, which one do you want to see in episode 9? And which one is your favorite? Let us know at HeadToHeadSW on Facebook and Twitter. Maybe post a picture of what you want to see on Instagram. That would be cool.
Indeed.
All right, what do we got next?
from a certain point of view.
Almost like I'm bored or something. All right, what's next? I'm not. You know, I love talking to you guys.
All right. So this week we have Knights of the Old Republic movie confirmed.
Yeah, they actually confirmed it. It's funny because we talked about it a lot, that it would make sense. Game of Thrones.
Yep.
So
I think it's good. I mean, I don't think they've necessarily confirmed who's directing it.
No, they haven't done that.
But we just know that it's going to be done.
Yeah, we know it's going to be done. We know that Benioff and Weiss are going to oversee it, obviously. And I mean, the only thing that we don't know yet, and this is where a little bit of discussion could be had, is like, okay, but where? Where are they going to place it? Because the thing that is really interesting about this is the fact that the way that they made it sound like this is based on the game.
Yeah.
Because they didn't say an Old Republic movie is confirmed. They said it's a Knights of the Old Republic movie. It's the game, basically.
Right. And we talked about that recently, about how games being transferred to the screen. Yeah,
which, speaking of which, they finally released some footage for Jedi Fallen Order, up at E3 last week, and it looks pretty spectacular. And, Saw Gerrera's in it, and I mean, it's also a little bit more open world than what, it's not linear, which a lot of those games tend to be. So now I'm really even more excited after seeing some of the gameplay and seeing it, that it might actually be the game that we're looking for. But Knights of the Old Republic has long been held by myself and many other fans who have played it as like the best Star Wars story, at least one of them, that they've ever had. And, that's why we've been clamoring for this to be made into a film. So I think that they're making this into a trilogy. And the question becomes, because the game takes place about 10,000 years before the events of A New Hope. So it makes me wonder, are they gonna go that far back, or are they gonna play a little bit with the timeline? Are they gonna which characters are they going to include? So that's something you have to do too. You got to play it on your phone, man.
Well, what I want to know is just how they're going to, like, as far as like ships and shuttles and things, like, okay, like, is it going to be just like how the game was, or, you know what I mean?
Well, because it could be, because I mean, they actually had, it was funny when I first got the game. Like I said, you could download it free on your phone now and play it. So I mean, and it's the actual PC game that was released back then. But I mean,
because I had it on Xbox.
Yeah. The interesting thing about the game is that they had a lot of the same technology. It was different, obviously. It was meant to be older, but I mean, it wasn't, kind of like their... And in fact, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you didn't start out with a lightsaber. You started out with like a staff, kind of like a sword or something. Yeah, it was a sword.
Sword, yeah.
So you had a sword, and basically you then could do different things to make the sword better. Then you can make it to where the sword like flared, so it was kind of like
a flaming sword, basically.
Yeah, kind of like one of the coolest weapons was the Sun Sword from Thunder the Barbarian. That was an old Saturday morning, cartoon. He was sort of like a Conan character in a way, but he had the Sun Sword, and it was basically like this cool flaming, like kind of a combination of a sword and a lightsaber. Very cool weapon. So they could do something like that. And of course, I think they will bring lightsabers in, because as the game went on, they did have them and they did think about it. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Like, what would you want to see if you had to see, given that you didn't really delve too much into the game?
Yeah, I played it. I would love to see in a Knights of the Old Republic game. It's just kind of the democracy, or the inner workings of everything. Like, how did things come to be? And it basically, like, okay, like, it kind of explains this. So when you go back and look at the original trilogy, you're like, oh, okay, I see like how that evolved basically to that point.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on, because, you know, it's so far removed from the original trilogy. There's certain elements of Star Wars that are definitely there. That's where I actually thought the storytelling was brilliant, is that it was completely different, but yet it felt familiar.
Yeah.
You know, and they had some really cool characters, like what was it, HK-47 or something, that hilarious killer droid. Right. And I mean, you know, I hope that he makes it in somehow. You know, I hope that they have just like the same basic thing. That's what I really think they need to do. They need to do the same elements.
Yeah, it should be interesting. And like, one day we probably have to like get the characters and from the game and try to think like, okay, who currently would you want to see playing those characters? Yeah. We should do that one day.
Yeah, we should do that one day. All right, what about you guys? You got the Knights of the Old Republic movie confirmed. You know, of course, we're really excited about it. You know, let us know. Are you excited about Knights of the Old Republic? Do you wish they would just do, you know, an Old Republic game? Have you played Knights of the Old Republic? Were you one of the unfortunate souls, in my opinion, that played Knights of the Old Republic 2? I mean, it wasn't terrible. It was okay. It just wasn't. The story wasn't the best, and I mean, it could not stand up to the first one. Maybe if they released it like 5-10 years later, it would have been better because it wouldn't have been so closely related. But, you know, let us know what you guys think about this whole thing at Head to Head SW at Facebook and Twitter. As you can probably tell, we really do like to talk about this stuff. I'll see if I can actually do a link to the game in the show notes, or at least information about it, so you guys can be on the same page. All right. For our final segment, we're going to answer your questions in a little segment that we like to call Clear Your Mind. That's right. You submit your questions and we answer them. What do we got first? And from whom?
Well, we have Mariah Singletary. She would like to know, what is The Mandalorian really about?
Oh, Mariah, you should immediately access our podcast from, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 weeks ago, something like that. Within the last couple of months, we did a whole podcast on The Mandalorian and what we can expect, but just to save you some of the trouble of having to go back and dig that up, although it does boost our stats, so we would appreciate it if you would go back and listen. But
that's for more in-depth details.
Yeah, for some more in-depth details, but basically the whole idea is this is taking place, like, how many years after Return of the Jedi? Like 10 or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's basically going to follow this Mandalorian character who, you know, we've seen his armor in both Boba and Jango Fett. Mandalorians are, of course, a race of people that you can learn a lot about in the Clone Wars and Rebels. Mm-hmm. And essentially we're following this lone bounty hunter, this Mandalorian character, as he interacts with factions of the Empire that are still left over after it was destroyed, that are all vying for power. And, you know, he's taken on... We saw a little bit of a trailer at Star Wars Celebration. I mean, we didn't see it personally. We saw it thanks to some YouTube leaks, but, you know, it showed some really promising scenes, and it looks like it's going to be kind of a gritty, you know, darker, kind of Godfather-ish maybe in tone.
Yeah, kind of almost like if you kind of took the tone of Rogue One and...
Yeah, very much so.
Maybe you kind of mixed it up with like I guess a Clint Eastwood Western type.
Yeah, like a Clint Eastwood Western type of vibe. There might even be like a little bit of procedural, you know, drama type stuff in there. But it's going to follow this guy as he's being played by Pedro Pascal, and you're going to follow this guy around, you know, and as he takes on jobs and he's, you know, interacting with these people. And there's not a whole lot right now that's really known about it, but, you know, if you subscribe to Disney Plus, which will launch on November 12th for $6.99 a month as it stands right now.
Yep.
You know, you'll be able to catch this and you'll be able to see.
All right. So next question comes from Michael Holcomb. Who do you think is going to be more powerful in the Force by Rise of Skywalker, Rey or Kylo?
Well, I would definitely... That's a good question, because...
That's a really tough question.
You know, it really is, because, you know, the nice thing about and it depends on how they follow this arc, because the nice thing about the first 6 movies is you basically had this neat little thing where in the first 3, the dark side of the Force is rising and it's clouding the light side. And then in the next 3, the light side of the Force is rising and now they're clouding the dark. Mm-hmm. So each trilogy kind of had its own emphasis.
Right.
All right. So obviously, while the light side was being clouded in the prequels, obviously the Sith are going to have the more powerful characters, more or less, you know. And then of course the opposite in the original trilogy, more or less. So it really depends on how they want to play this out, because, you know, you would be tempted to say Kylo because he's had more training, but we've seen that Rey is a lot more prodigious. Like, some of the stuff is coming naturally to her, you know, and so it's really going to be tough. I mean, I'd have to probably say Rey, only because I think she's going to have more control over her emotions, and that's going to help her quite a bit. Not to mention the fact she does have all the Jedi texts. I mean, you know, I don't think that just everybody had access to that information. I mean, she literally has like all the information that the Jedi have compiled over, you know, probably millennia. You know, and I don't know how much she's going to study. You know, she's going to be like how guys are with manuals where, you know, you only read them when something breaks and you got to learn how to fix it. So it's kind of like, you know, she runs across some certain situation like, yeah, you know what, maybe I better read about that in the text. Or is she really going to, like, you know, be basically a little bit more diligent about the whole thing and really study this stuff? I don't know. What about you, man?
I mean, like I said, it's really hard for me.
This is one of the things that I think intrigues me the most about 9 is you really don't know.
This also be a really good Duel of the Fate one too.
Oh, actually, yeah.
This would be really cool. But I think it's very hard to really say, because you make very valid points about Rey having all the Jedi text and whatnot, and her being able to control her emotions, and Kylo being so erratic as we've seen since we've come to know him. But I also feel like I feel like he's had more training from both sides. One from Luke, so he kind of knows how the Jedi thinks. True too,
yeah.
And then on the other side,
he's one of the only guys, because he's not just a true Sith. Now, granted, you could say the same thing about Dooku, though.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, he's one of the few that we've known who are on both sides of the fence, shall we say? Mm-hmm. So, you know, and although Kylo hasn't been elevated to the rank of Sith yet, you know, whereas Rey could be elevated to the rank of Jedi, you know, there's that. But I think between Snoke and then now if Palpatine comes back,
yeah, I know,
you know, it's just like, okay,
what additional training is he going to get now?
Yeah, or whatever he finds and whatnot. So it's really going to be that's a hard.
Well, then you also have to. Where it's really hard with Kylo, in my opinion, is that you have to figure out where he's going to go with something. Like, is he more bent on domination? So is he going to spend more time like militarily, or is he going to try to spend more time in learning more about the Force and things like that? Because if you think about it, if he's not,
well, I think he's probably. I mean, I
probably thinks he knows everything by now.
We'll see, but see, that's the thing, and because you said that, it makes me wonder that trick that Luke pulled on him. He's got to be like, okay, I'm not as good as, you know, like he got one over.
Well, yeah, there is that.
So he's probably got to like, okay, and I know she was training with him. He's got to factor in like, okay, well, how powerful is she? Because he knows what Luke can do because, one, that's his uncle. And then on top of that, you know, and he's trained with him. And then on top of that, you know, now you have Rey, who seems to come out of nowhere, and out the gate, she's resisting his mind stuff. She's able to do certain things that he's like, okay, you know, what the heck? Now, granted, Kylo showed us his strength out the gate when he's holding blaster bolts while he's having a whole conversation.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So we're seeing that he's no slouch either. And of course, that whole mind probe thing.
And that's why I'm thinking that he just might have such arrogance.
Force power. Dang, why didn't I think of that?
Oh, yeah, right.
Well, anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. It's like, well, that's what I'm saying. When we brought up those Force moments, man, it's like, well, great. Now I got to try to remember like every single little Force moment. That's a big one.
Yeah.
I might trade one of mine for that. Because especially if you want to stick to things that we visually seen, you know, I mean, there's so many things in the novels and comics, but I mean, that is where I'm thinking that a lot of this lies in is in his arrogance. It's like, does he think, okay, yeah, these guys got it, but you know what? I can waste any moment. Yeah, I don't need to like study for this stuff. I mean, I could just.
And the fact that they fought together too.
Well, the other thing I'm thinking of, though, now that it's popping in my head, is that, you know, Snoke really, before the moments, because we know that The Force Awakens goes right into The Last Jedi. It's like literally just one big movie. And Snoke was going to bring him back for some more training, which implies that Kylo realizes that he needs more training.
Yeah.
You know, because he was just like, okay, cool.
Well, he also said, well, if you train me a little bit more, you know, I could.
Yeah, so I mean, he
even said it.
He's not. So in other words, Kylo's not thinking, "Hey, I'm there." He's recognizing the fact that, you know what? Yeah, I do need some more training.
And I think that's where the Emperor comes in. I think that's what he's seeking.
Well, and that definitely could be. So I mean, it really depends. And you know, we did get from that Vanity Fair article too that while Rey is almost at her full potential, she's not at her full potential.
Yeah.
So she probably needs some more as well. So it's really going to depend on where they're at in 9 with their respective training. Because if there's been a year, you know, Kylo could conceivably have been training too.
My other thing is too, like, I wonder how well they're going to combat each other, I should say, because you got to wonder, like, with that whole mind meld basically that they have with each other.
Yeah, that's another.
It's like being able to predict what the other person's doing.
Well, and I think one of the
like
things
you have to hide your thoughts from them.
Right. And I think that this is one of the things that's really intriguing about these two particular characters is this is the first time that we've actually seen two relatively evenly matched people on the light and dark.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I guess you can make that argument with Yoda and Palpatine too.
True.
But and, you know, that could be how it goes down. You know, it could be one of those, like, you know, whoever just happens to have the upper hand that day, you know, wins. But I don't know if you really, you know, I don't really know if you could say that either one is more powerful in the Force. You know, it might be a draw.
Yeah, it may. Yeah, that's a big possibility.
Yeah, well, what about you guys? At Head to Head SW on Facebook and Twitter is where you can reach us. You know, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You know, we put these podcasts up on our YouTube channel as well. You know, there's some good content on there. I'm trying to build up a library of more Star Wars related stuff for you guys. You know, Daryl and I might actually try to do, now that he's really on the mend, we can actually get and maybe do some other videos and related shows like that. You know, I think so. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, you know, so that way, you know, the link will be in the show notes. And again, use the affiliate links. You know, we're plowing as we speak through Master and Apprentice. So join us on our little book discussion that we'll have on an upcoming podcast. You can buy it through our affiliate link. You know, we do some Amazon affiliate links to help support our podcast so we can keep bringing it to you. So be sure to do that. And I think that's going to do it for our show this week.
Yes, sir.
You know, hopefully you guys will join us next week. I'm Eric Vansel.
I'm Daryl Sanders.
May the Force be with you.
Always.
Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at HeadToHeadSW. Submit your questions for our next show. Visit our official website at headtoheadswpodcast.com. Until next time, may the Force be with you, always.